Hello and welcome to Positively United. Today, Wednesday, the 4th of February 2026. And after the video I made yesterday about my own personal disappointment about the way the January transfer window had panned out for United with no major signings or loan deals, and it was loan deals I was expecting. I've been reflecting today on what's going to happen in the summer, particularly as, quite naturally, there's been a lot of speculation today about what United will end up doing in the summer, and comments about how they've been keeping their powder dry until the summer when they'll make the big moves. Now, the big move that everyone expects them to make, of course, is in the midfield area. That's the area that we wanted them to address this January with perhaps a loan signing, but we know that United have been thinking about or planning for a major midfield purchase or two this summer, and that's what I want to talk about today. Is can we start being realistic about what is going to happen this summer? Because I've noticed that a lot of people are starting to default to the idea that out of our list of midfield targets, which are Carlos Baleba, Adam Wharton, and Elliot Anderson, that we're going to buy two of them. So two from those three. Two from Carlos Baleba, Adam Wharton, or Elliot Anderson. And I personally just don't see it. Let me explain why. If you look at the team that Carrick is playing, and by the way, I don't particularly believe that anything dramatic would change whoever comes in if it isn't Carrick. I don't think we're going to go for a 3-4-3 manager probably ever again in the history of a club after the last one. It doesn't really matter who we go for. It doesn't matter if it's Carrick gets the job or it's Tuchel or it's Poch or Ancelotti. We're going to be playing some sort of variation of 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, 4-4-2. Perhaps the last one is the least likely, but you know what I mean. 4-4-1-1. I really don't believe we're going to go for a 3-4-3 manager. I believe on the last game of the season, all things willing and injuries and suspensions not taking its toll, our two midfielders will be Casemiro and Kobe Mainoo. And they're doing a fantastic job. The way that Kobe Mainoo has played in the last three games just shows you how hopeless our last coach was. Kobe Mainoo is absolutely fantastic. But of course, of those two players we're going to lose, it's Casemiro. Casemiro is having a rebirth at United, a second wind. He's playing superbly at the moment, and we will really miss him. And it's Casemiro we need to replace, or do we? Because one of the things we probably need to have in mind is Casemiro replaceable? Probably not. He's one of the world's best players in that position. He was able to combine genuine defensive midfield capabilities with a very, very strong attacking edge. It's a rare combination. It's particularly in the modern game where over-specialization has become the thing. So to expect a direct replacement for Casemiro is probably not sensible. What we're looking for is a defensive midfield player. Now, I heard some nonsense earlier today, some people saying that none of our midfield targets, neither Baleba nor Wharton nor Anderson, is a defensive midfielder. That's nonsense. Both Baleba and Wharton play as defensive midfield players. Of the three, Elliot Anderson is the one that looks least like a defensive midfield player. I'd agree. He looks like a more advanced or box-to-box midfield player. So of the two that we're apparently going for, I think it's much more likely that the two will be Carlos Baleba and Adam Wharton. But here's the rub. I don't think we'll buy two. I think we'll buy one. And let me explain why. Are we going to drop Kobe Mainoo to the bench immediately after re-establishing himself? And at the same time, he'll probably be negotiating that new contract of his. Because if we buy, for example, let's just take it, we buy Baleba and Wharton. That's what we would end up doing, surely? Or are we going to buy Baleba and Wharton and tell both of them or one of them that they're going to spend quite a bit of time on the bench? Can you imagine the conversation? Carlos, Come and join us at United. Yeah, I want to come and join United. Am I going to play every week? Not really, because we'll end up with 3 players for 2 positions, because we're not just talking to you, we're talking to Adam Wharton too, and we're going to try and buy both of you. And Kobe Mainoo's not going anywhere. He's a fan favourite and he plays brilliantly. So there's 2 places and there's 3 of you. Which one of Baleba, Wharton or Mainoo do you think is going to be happy being regularly benched? Go on. No, I can't either. If we continue to play a double pivot, Kobe Mainoo is going to have one of those positions, and we need one other of Baleba, Wharton or Anderson. And I think it's actually just 2. I think it's Baleba and Wharton because they fit the bill better, and I'm pretty certain that Anderson is off to City. So I think it's going to be one of Baleba and Wharton. And I think that's what we need to start thinking about between now and the end of the season. Which of those 2 players would be best in our new midfield? Now, I'm not saying we should only buy 2 midfielders, but I believe the second midfielder we buy needs to be a little bit further down the pecking order. That midfielder needs to be content with being quite regularly benched and being brought on for the final 20-25 minutes of the game. And in all fairness, we might already have that player if we think that Tyler Fletcher is going to be the player that we think he is going to be. Because he might be the perfect player to put on the bench for that role. Unless, of course, you think he might be a little bit too inexperienced for that role. Well, who knows? But I think it's worth thinking about. This is why I'm, in a sense, a little bit, well, not a little bit. I am actually so disappointed about what we didn't do in this January transfer window. Because if you think about it, if we'd have picked up a modestly priced midfield player this January, that is a player who might have been ideal for the role I'm talking about, the sort of second fiddle defensive midfield player. By the way, I'm assuming that Ugarte is not going to be that player, because I'm assuming Ugarte is going to be leaving because he's failed the 2 seasons new rule, which actually I think is a very good one, which is if you don't establish yourself within 2 seasons, you're out. And he hasn't, so I think he's out. But I think that's what's going to happen in midfield. One of Adam Wharton or Baleba plus one a lesser stature midfielder or a promotion from our ranks. Kind of like would favour the first. I'd like us to buy that additional midfielder. But that's what I think is going to happen. I think the talk of us buying 2 of those 3 is, I can understand why it's happening, because I think what will happen increasingly as we get towards the summer transfer window is some commentators will pitch a totally unrealistic expectation, which when it isn't met, because it's totally unrealistic, they can criticize the club for not matching. Unfairly, but that's what they'll do. Because I've heard some comments over the last 2 days, for example, that in the summer we need to buy 5 or 6 top quality players. 5 or 6. Where do they think in the world that happens? Well, where do they think the money comes from? Because even if you were super, super, super rich, you still don't have that sort of money lying around. And the rules would stop you spending that money anyway. There's 2 things that will probably stop us buying 6 top quality players in the summer. Whatever the rules will be called in the summer, PSR or whatever. And the fact that we simply probably just won't have that amount of cash. I'd also Or I'd also use Liverpool as a cautionary tale. Look what Liverpool did this last summer. They splurged for cash, ridiculously so. Absolutely absurd purchases. And look what it's done to them. It's taken them back rather than forward. There's no need to panic buying the summer. There's no need to buy players we don't need. What we should be doing is concentrating on players we absolutely definitely need. A defensive midfielder. A left full back. Possibly a left winger, but I think Dorgu very well might have grabbed that place for himself. But that's what we need to do. 2 or 3 quality purchases. Not 5 or 6 absurd ones. Okay, that's my piece for today. It's going to be fascinating to see how this conversation about the transfer window, the next transfer window, pans out between now and it happening in the summer, particularly as it's a World Cup summer too, and I'm sure that will get in the way of the timings of these things. It's an exciting prospect, but there's a long way to go, and don't allow that time to be spent by people who will set unrealistic demands on the club, unrealistic targets that can't be met and frankly shouldn't even be attempted to be met. Okay, if you liked the video today, please hit the like button. If you like the channel and what I try to do here, which is bring some sense and reason to the discussion about Manchester United and not overhype negatives for clicks, please subscribe. If you think you've got friends who would like what I do on the channel, let them know about the channel too and get them to subscribe as well. If you'd like to follow me on X, I've also got an account on X. The link is in the description. And if you want to in any way contribute to the channel, I've got a Coffee account, and the link to that is in the description too. But that's it for now. Hopefully see you tomorrow. And until then, genuinely remain positively united.